Hi and welcome to our little corner of the internet. We're so excited you're here. I'm Charlotte and this is my husband Carl, along with our cheeky little boy George and our crazy cocker spaniel Arnie. We've just moved into a 3-bed bungalow on an acre of land and it's about to get a serious makeover. After years of living in military accommodation and always being miles away from family, we made a big decision. We're now living under one roof with my parents Martin and Cheryl. 3 generations coming together to build a family home filled with support, love, and homegrown produce. We'll be sharing our journey of renovating the bungalow, transforming our 1-acre garden into a kitchen garden, and learning to live more simply and sustainably together. This is more than a renovation, it's about creating a slower, connected way of life, real family life, real progress, and probably a few real mishaps along the way. If that sounds like your thing, we'd love for you to follow along. Like, subscribe, and come say hello. We're just getting started.
Well, it's another week of work on the kitchen garden. And I've got a few specific jobs to do. The first one is purely decorative. On the way back from my allotment yesterday, I drove past a garden centre just south of Hereford. I needed some compost, and I'll talk about that in a second. And I couldn't resist. They're not tete-a-tete, they're double-headed versions of it. So they're only about 6 inches high. And I'm going to underplant the 2 pear trees on the walk down here from the house with some daffodils, and that'll look nice in the spring. The second job is far more important, but probably won't get done first, and that is, please excuse, it's rush hour and this B road is quite busy. Grease bands. We have got some fruit trees here that are useful. The apple tree is the main one, and then my 2 little pears, and the plum tree by the greenhouse. And I'm going to put the grease bands around them. October, November is the time to do it, and it stops the winter moth caterpillars climbing up. And in the fruiting period of next year, they would hatch caterpillars which burrow into your fruit and ruin it. So the grease bands go on this time of year, and I'm going to do that today. That is a priority. And I mentioned the compost, and the other job I've got to do is we've now got quite a lot of dahlias, and I'll show you later what I do. I don't dig them out, turn them upside down, dry them, put them in dry or moist sand, etc. I don't do all that. I have a different method which involves them staying in the ground. So I needed some compost for that, and I'll show you that in a minute. But first job, got to have a brew. Oh yeah, and one other job. I brought some more plastic back from the allotment, so I'm going to cover, or start to cover, that last section of grass in the first square that we're creating. So it'll start killing the grass. They're only small bits of plastic, so I don't suppose they'll be as effective as the large piece, but it makes a start on weakening and killing the grass. And in true Martin fashion, I'm going to do the jobs back to front once I've drunk my brew. Well, that's a bit of a milestone. That's the first quarter of our kitchen garden completely covered with black plastic. Feels good. Just got to buy several £100 worth more of compost. Right, next job. I should just say that whilst we're in the process of setting up a kitchen garden here, if you don't understand and you haven't watched the full journey, I still have 2.5 allotments down in Gloucestershire, and we're busy moving stuff up from there that we want to keep here, like blueberries, blackberries and so on. But it's still cropping, and yesterday I brought one of my stems of Brussels sprouts back, and we'll start eating those now. I think I should have left the roots on. They would save better with the roots on. I made a mistake there. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that we're still we've got a shed full of potatoes. I'm cropping lots of leeks from there now that we're freezing. Because of the dry summer, they didn't really grow as well as they have in previous years, but they're still edible. All sorts of different crops that we're bringing up, we're eating. We've got 5 freezers in the shed that are full of my produce. So although we're not creating any produce here yet, we're still eating our own fresh, organic, homegrown produce. So what do I do with dahlias? Well, the first thing I do is cut them to the ground. You can wait till you get a frost and they get blackened, but it's getting colder now, so I'm going ahead and doing it to them all. So yeah, cut it to the ground. Mulch it heavily. Bit of old compost bag. And that's it. It's on its own till spring.
Nice.
Very nice, George. Too busy to talk. Can Grandad have one? Obviously not. It's starting to rain heavy now, but you can now see the path starting to establish. Unfortunately, I think that's all the step overs I've got. I'll check the allotment next time I go, but I think that's it. So I will have to create the remaining step overs when I buy the maiden trees, bare root stock, about £6 each, in the new year. So patience is a virtue, apparently. But I'm pleased that that's taken shape, and that's just one arm of the cross, so it's early days. Right, that last bit of hedge cutting, that is the last of our hedges and our boundaries now under control. It's not a perfect straight line, but it's very acceptable. Excuse the noise of the traffic, it's now the rush hour at the other end of the day. I've chipped all that other pile, just got this to go, and then I can start cutting down more trees and making more piles. Is there ever an end to it? Well, a little bit of a behind the scenes shot here. This is the inside of our shed. Completely empty when we moved in. This bench was here. There are over 30 plug sockets in here, which is really interesting. Most of them are up the wall. There's a Freudian slip. Anyway, it's a real asset. I mean, we don't have a garage. So this shed is the place where we say, what do we do with this? Put it in the shed. And that's what we do. I'm hoping at some stage to put a bench down there that we can sit on with room to put shoes and boots and wellies underneath. But in the meantime, it's where, like I say, where we put everything we're not sure what to do with if it doesn't go in the loft. But more importantly, I think, and I just had to save the sold sign, it was such a painful process that when I saw it at the end of the lane, I thought, I'm having that. So I've got to clean it and put it on the wall. But it's also where we store our produce. So as I said before, we have 5 freezers in here, all full of my produce from the allotment. And then, of course, we have the butternuts, some onions, not many onions. It wasn't a good year for my onions. Then uchiki curry, some winter squash mashed potato, and lots of garlic. Charlotte and Carl tend to use lazy garlic, which I believe is a powder. Although Carl, because he's very keen on this homegrown produce project of ours, I do believe he is now starting to use natural garlic, which is good news, and that's the future. But I just thought I'd give you an insight into, oh, and of course, covered in blankets to keep the sun off, 3 large crates of my own potatoes, which we're eating every week, and it's blimmin' marvellous. I love it. So yeah, just a little insight into the out of shot areas. Well, although it's still raining, I have more work to do. I need to create a bigger pile for the chipper. So we've managed to cut the grass to this point. The next phase is this, down the bank to the wall with our neighbour. This is the next phase of the clearance. I'm going to leave the damson trees. There's only 2 or 3 of them. But all these minor self-seeded saplings and these 2 rowans need to come out, because that rowan has got a telephone wire running through it, so that'll be a bit of a nuisance as it gets bigger, so that's got to come out. So that damson there is staying because it shields us from people over the road looking up into the house, so it serves a purpose until we get our own orchard established. But all these other little trees, like I say, they've got to come out, and then the grass has got to be cut and cleared. Right, Let's stop talking, Martin, and get on with it. Well, we made it. The end of October, we moved in on the August the 11th, and I finally got across the whole field and trimmed the lot. Got that lot to get rid of, and once that lot's gone through the chipper, that cluster over there, they're going to get dropped. And then I've got these rowans to take down. There's no purpose to a rowan in this garden. They are quite an attractive tree with berries, but we'll be growing our own ornamentals, I'm sure. And the only tree I think I'm leaving is that monster. Well, hello. Today you find me back in the greenhouse. The other week I was filling these pots with compost, and now I'm putting my garlic in. This one happens to be Germidor, and when I've finished doing this, I'm going to plant up some, excuse my nose, it's itchy, some broad beans, Acre Claudia. It's the 1st of November today, so the garlic and the broad beans are being sown. Acre Claudia, that's the wrong one. There we go. Garlic Germidor. But, so yeah, these are going to stay in the greenhouse. We've got shelves in this greenhouse, so they'll stay in here, and in the spring they'll go out into our no-dig beds. You'll be aware that we here live as an extended family. There's 3 generations, and there's a reason for that. We all have our own reasons, and we all gain something different from it. One of the inspirations for me to do what we're doing here was a documentary I watched called The Blue Zones. If you don't know about it, the Blue Zones are 5 regions around the world. These people all have certain things in common. The greatest of which is they are the longest lived societies on the planet. Not only are they the longest lived, they live the eldest, but they live the eldest healthily. That's the key. These 5 regions have never met, they don't know anything about each other, they don't communicate, but they have certain things in common. Let me think, I think I can remember 4 of them. Loma Linda in California, they're a religious sect, the 7-day Adventists. An area of Sardinia near Italy, a region of Costa Rica, and the island of Okinawa in Japan. I can't remember what the other one is. I think it's somewhere near Nepal. I'm not sure. But anyway, these areas, they tend to live geographically separated. That's the great advantage they have. But also societally, they are separated from the main populations, and that gives them a big advantage, obviously. But I found the documentary about these peoples absolutely fascinating. This one fact stopped me in my tracks. I'll talk about what they all have in common, but none of these societies have care homes. Isn't that amazing? They have no need for them. There's no dementia, and the elderly live within the homes with their families. So they're loved, they're cared for, they're healthy, and they have purpose. Even there was a great grandmother in the Sardinian episode, and every morning she got up, she had purpose, she had a job to do. Her job was to teach the grandchildren, primarily the little girls, how to make pasta and how to cook and how to keep house, etc., etc. Very traditional. No care homes. Now, that one fact alone should stop the West in its tracks. I've always thought, if you want to know how to do something, you go to where it's done the best. If you want to know how to run a railway system, you go to Japan or Germany. If you want to know how to keep your streets clean and your country and the environment healthy, you go to Sweden, Finland, Norway. You know, we should be looking at these people in these blue zones and saying, what are you doing? How do you not need care homes? Anyway, some of the things that they have in common. Diet. They eat a mostly plant-based diet. They do have meat, but it's very occasional and it's very modest, usually at religious festivals or family celebrations. So yeah, diet, plant-based. They don't have gymnasiums. The principle of exercise is lost on them. Now that might sound unhealthy, but the reason they don't go out for a run or go to the gym is their whole life is based on physical work. They tend their crops, they walk to church. When they cut the hedge, they do it with shears, not hedge trimmers. All of this makes perfect sense. Obviously they live in extended families, that goes without saying. That is the best way to live for everybody, for society and for the family and the individuals. And laughter. The thing that ran through all these documentaries is the sheer amount of laughter and fun in these homes. The Blue Zones, if you can find it, I think it was on Netflix and there's a bit of it on YouTube. For me it was inspiring, and it's one of the things that led me to agree to do this, and I'm loving it as we're doing it. But yeah, no care homes, long lives, wonderful.